Hello everybody, my name is Paul Smyers. I'm a real estate agent in the beautiful state of Virginia in the central Shenandoah Valley. Today I want to talk to my guests about foundations. We have a lot of older homes out here in the countryside, and that's my specialty. And when you see some of these basements and foundations, you have to kind of shake your head, honestly. But as long as you're careful and prudent and understand basically the nature of foundations, an old foundation isn't necessarily going to be bad. It may have improved over the years through the efforts of the people who own the homes to reinforce it and so on. First of all, when you look at a house, you'll decide whether it's on a foundation with a basement or whether it's just on a platform. In many areas of the country, especially where it's cold, they used to put the furnaces in the basement. And naturally that required a lot of open space because there's sometimes the early ones had a coal chute down there where you would feed your furnace coal. And they were kind of primitive, honestly. I've seen some foundations, even lived in a home years ago when I was married, that had the old style, basically rocks and mortar. They probably just pulled rocks off the yard or whatever and stacked them up and put some mortar in there. And it was very interesting. And it was a very old house. It was a small house. We had some issues with that, a little bit of sagging and so on, but I won't get into that right now. But you will see those kinds of foundations in many older homes that have a basement. I know a family member who has a beautiful house in a nearby town, and it's definitely, it's 100 years old. It's really solid. You walk in there, it's beautiful and everything. But you go down the narrow stairs into the basement, and you start looking around and go, look up, and like, wow, it's definitely primitive. But what happened is over the years, because of the way it was built and so on, even though it has kind of a funky foundation, basically a basement with, again, a combination of cinder blocks and basically just rocks and mortar, but it has been reinforced over the years. So an old basement doesn't necessarily mean you can't buy it. It just means that you got to investigate it very carefully because there are ways that a foundation like that can leak. And roots can come through from shrubs that are along the foundation wall on the outside next to the house, you see. So if you see a foundation like that, look carefully because it may have been patched over the years. It may have been sealed with concrete. You have a concrete and mortar type of situation, a combined type of foundation. Modern foundations are generally poured concrete with rebar. Sometimes they have cinder blocks in the middle and they pour right through the cinder blocks and reinforce that. And cinder block foundations have their own peculiarities, honestly, and I'll talk about that in a minute. When you build a cinder block foundation, cinder blocks, they're made out of a kind of rough concrete with some fairly raw, large granules in there, if you look at them carefully. And over the years, they can kind of draw water from the foundation perimeter outside, and water can come down as rain and go along the side of the house and go down, and slowly but surely, if there's no drainage away from the house, it might try to go in through the side of the house, and you can get some serious problems that way. But a lot of times it's just the gutters and the way the slant is from the base of the house. If the water that comes off your roof and gutters goes off the side and away from the house, you're less likely to have a problem by far. But you got to be careful sometimes because I've seen properties where they have a slope in the backyard and it comes down and makes a pool right near the house. And if it was a slab, that wouldn't be so much of an issue, but if there's a basement down there, that water can seep down into the ground and push against the foundation. And then you have, in the wintertime, if you have freezing and thawing going on, it can actually crack cinder blocks and make a problem. And then it can be very expensive to dig around the outside of the house down deep and repair the foundation and fill it back up. I've known people who had that done, and it's not cheap. But just keeping your eye on it. Now, a really nice foundation that you'll find in many areas, as I mentioned before, it was a slab. It's just a basic slab, and it's poured in hard concrete. Often it's at least 4 inches, and it has certain regulations, and depending on where you are, and you have to be careful about the soil and prepare the soil because it does no good to put a concrete foundation or concrete slab on a bunch of soil that's going to sink and and freeze and thaw. You have to kind of prepare it, and there's ways to do that. I'm not a specialist or expert in foundations at all, but I do talk to a lot of contractors, and I know a lot of people in the business, and I see a lot of foundations. So I want to make these videos rather short and cover certain areas. I've covered roofs in one area, one of my videos. If you'd like to look at that, go around all around YouTube and find expertise in the areas that you have questions about when you buy property. I try to pass along information. I share books that you might see behind me on every video. Check out those books. I recommend them. And I'm a specialist in rural property because I love living in the countryside. It's much cheaper, it's less stress, it's generally overall nicer neighbors, you get more land, and sometimes you can get some really cute vintage houses out in the countryside. So that's enough about foundations now. Ask me any questions, go look and research on your own about the different foundations. Again, to summarize, the foundation that's on, even if it's old, it may not be bad. It may be okay. Someone took care of it, reinforced it over the years. They kept their shrubs away from the outside, where they did their gutters, properly, so the drainage is good. And it may be just fine. But you just have to watch out for certain things. And if you want a slab, that's a really good way to go. You don't have the basement problem. But there are some disadvantages of not having a basement as well. So thanks again for listening. I hope you like and share, and please see some of my other content. Thanks.